like to call to order the February 6th meeting of the TIF Board. I'll call the attendance. Richie Gonzalez.
Here.
Sean Kadim.
Here.
Seth Aiken.
Here.
Frank Marcioni.
Here.
And joining us by Zoom, Lydia Pereira.
Here.
Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting, and they may transmit through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings and transmissions are being made whether perceived or unperceived and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. I think we have to do the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
United States of America,
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any citizens' input tonight? Hearing none. I'll ask for a motion to approve the September 7th, 2022 minutes.
Moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion second. Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? I guess we're gonna go right now to the bank tip application. Mr. Fiola, you're gonna fill us in on that, please?
I will. Thank you, Mayor and members of the TIF Board. The first application we have before you tonight is the Bank 5 TIF application. As we all know, Bank 5 has been a well-established institution here within the city of Fall River for over a century. They've remained one of the only headquartered banks, if not the only headquartered bank here in Fall River. They're also the 33rd largest bank in the state of Massachusetts. What they're proposing is they're proposing a $12 million expansion, modernization, and related equipment purchases which will allow Bank 5 to upgrade and expand its corporate headquarters on Main Street, 79 North Main Street. This expansion will be taking place within one of the highest poverty level census tracts in the entire city. So this type of investment of $12 million, I think, should be well accepted by the city as well as the TIF Board, because you don't see these types of expansions taking place within these types of impoverished census tract areas, and Bank 5 actually deserves a lot of credit for this proposed investment that they're making here. Excuse me. As a result of the proposed expansion, Bank 5 is projected to create 5 additional full-time job opportunities within 7 years throughout the within the system itself, and they're also going to be retaining jobs as part of this overall expansion. So the recommendation that we're bringing forth today is for a 7-year TIF, which is reflected in your, at the end of the package. You have a valuation of a local TIF, and you can see that essentially over the 7-year period, the exempted taxes would reflect about $69,579 based upon today's tax rate of 25.77 for commercial rate, and the annual taxes due during this time period would be $86,329.50, once again, on the current tax rate. We all know that this is just an estimate. Once the project is complete and the assessors actually have a time to go out there to review the expansion, then they'll make the proper assessment. But this is a best faith effort and guesstimate as to where we stand with regard to the proposed expansion and evaluation there too. Excuse me, there are no personal property taxes being proposed here, because obviously banks are also exempt from personal property taxes themselves. So it's a relatively small TIF in comparison to some of the other TIFs that you have before you today, but as well as the TIFs that we've done in the past. But again, I think the real rationale for the acceptance and the approval of this proposed TIF is their demonstrated commitment to downtown Fall River, their vast history in serving this community for decades upon decades of providing good service, and also they're a very good corporate citizen within the city, contributing to many civic events throughout the years, both on the public's behalf and on the private nonprofit behalf. So we do have a couple of representatives from the bank today. If we have some additional questions that I can't answer.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. Motion, discussion. Any further discussion on the TIF? We'll call the roll on the TIF. Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Cadine?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Mr. Nascioni?
I must abstain. I am a client of the bank and also involved with Bristol County Economic Development Consultants.
That's okay.
Yes. One abstention. Passed. Next up is the 37 Park Street TIF application. Who's speaking on that?
I believe on that one as well. So before,
Mr. Viola?
yep, so before you have a second TIF application for 37 Park Street. As you may, some of the people that are familiar with the city here and will have a long-term memory, or long-time memory, 37 Park Street is the actual old Dominican Academy that's located on Park Street itself. Dominican Academy was provided Catholic education to females for a number of years at that particular location. Then when the school closed, the next use of that particular property was by the Atlantis Charter School, which disposed of this, which actually vacated that location when they moved into their new facility in the far south end. The Park Street location is a 59,000 square foot facility. It's been abandoned for a 2-year period. First Bristol Corporation plans a historic rehab of the entire 59,000 square foot building and surrounding property. St. Anne's Hospital would be the new tenant and move over existing administrative employees from the hospital to fill out and occupy the building. First Bristol Corporation has received approval for their proposed use from the City of Fall River Zoning Board of Appeals. The proposed $18 million investment for rehab will consist of a complete rehab of the building, both inside and out, remediation of existing minor environmental issues, creating an estimated 66 parking spaces and 75 plus or minus construction jobs. The interesting thing about this property is it's never been on the tax roll because it's been occupied and owned by either the diocese, the church, or the charter school. So now this property will be coming on a tax roll and be taxed as a private development under private ownership. The other interesting aspect about it is it allows the city to continue to create job opportunities in the city's highest growth sector, employment sector, that being the healthcare sector. So as the people vacate St. Anne's Hospital itself and then move the administrative offices over into this facility, that frees up space within the hospital for more clinical use and makes it a much more attractive place for the provision of healthcare related services. As you can see in your TIF, draft TIF agreement here, we are proposing a 7-year TIF, again, based upon the $18 million investment, which we're estimating may have an assessed value of approximately $3 million. During the 7-year period, the actual amount of exempted taxes would be $247,392, and the actual paid taxes would reflect $200,058,988.50. Again, project is in keeping with the overall development strategy of the city to create more jobs in the healthcare service area. Put a new building back on the tax roll so it can be considered new growth moving forward, and it also helps occupy a building that's been fallen into disrepair as a result of its non-use for the past 2 years. It's a historic building. They'll be using historic state and tax credits for the project, and I think it's a great use. We do have Jamie Karam here from First Bristol to answer any questions that I may not be able to help answer. Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion is second. Any further discussion on the old Dominican Academy? Hearing none, call roll. Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Mr. Cadino.
Yes.
Mr. Aiken.
Yes.
Mr. Marchioni.
Once again, I need to abstain.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And last order of business before new business is the Lincoln School on 439 Pine Street. Are you handling that one also, Mr.
I am,
Viola?
yes.
Mr. Viola.
Okay, so as you may be aware, High Development LLC is in the process of purchasing the former Lincoln School property located at 439 Pine Street. Hyde's been working diligently with the city of Fall River to repurpose the property and create 24 market residential units and 2 commercial spaces. To date, the project has received zoning board of approval from the Fall River ZBA. They've also secured Mass Historic tax credits, and the approval of the tie is critical and necessary to help offset an estimated $6 million in rehab expenses for the project. Over the past years, the city of Fall River has demonstrated a strong commitment to increase residential growth, expand housing alternatives, and stabilize housing development and promote economic development through the provision of the creation of market rate housing. Although the project is not contingent upon securement of the Department of Housing and Community Development HDIP program, should those tax credits become available, approval of the tie is a critical piece for the securement of those state tax credits. This tie was similar, almost identical to a previous tie that was approved years ago when it was under different ownership. This tie also reflects the same types of schedules that have been approved in similar types of projects. Essentially, it's a 10-year tie, of which there's an 80% savings during the first 5 years on the new value to be created, then there's a 20% savings on the second 5-year schedule of that 10-year schedule itself. So there's nothing new here in terms of the types or the term or conditions of this tie agreement in comparison to other previously approved ties. The only difference here is that it's under new ownership. The city is in the process of selling the property or facilitating the sale of the property to the developer. And once again, this will take an abandoned eyesore and convert it into market rate housing, which would also help stabilize and improve the living conditions and the public safety conditions within the neighborhood, that neighborhood around the Pine Street School area itself. We do have Ken Mollicone here, who's going to be the developer of the property to answer any questions that I may not be able to answer.
Motion to approve the tie.
Second. I have a motion and second. Any discussion on the tie? Hearing none, call roll. Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Cadino?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Mr. Marchioni?
Once again, I need to abstain due to personal economic development's assistance with the application.
Ms. Pereira?
Yes.
Yes. Any new business to come before the board tonight? Any old business we have to go over? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourned.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, everybody.